Welcome, everybody, to the Sonoma Spiel. My name is Tim with the Sonoma Valley Visitors Bureau. It's a beautiful day in Sonoma Valley. I know I always say that. A little bit muggy. There's a tropical storm thing coming up from the Southern California, but it's a lovely day. Today, big announcement in Sonoma. We have a new bench. There's an artist, a poet. Her name is Ada Limon. She worked at Reader's Books, and we put in a new bench in her honor because she is the poet laureate of the United States of America. It's a role she gets by defeating the other poet laureate in a rap battle, and she gets it for 2 years, and it's really amazing. Afterwards, she gave a few talk, and there's like some big muckety mucks doing their thing. But what really struck me was when she said she was working at the bookstore, and she was kind of dreaming about doing something. And she said, this is a place I was told I could be anything, and somehow I believed it. And it was amazing. So this is a place I was told I could be anything, and somehow I believed it. She also said, Sonoma is a community where you could tell someone you wanted to be a dancer or an actor or in a circus, and they wouldn't laugh. Because here it was sort of like you could be what you want to be in the creative arts. So Ada Limon is our poet laureate. You can see her new bench outside of Reader's Books where she used to work, and you can go get a book, get her poetry. And that's the arts. The arts is about making things out of something amazing, what we do in Sonoma. And speaking of poetry and arts and things just like that, winemaking is also an art. So here is your segue, folks. This week, I always say I have a very special guest. This time, I actually mean it. I've got two very special guests. We're going to be talking wine, harvest, whatever veraison means, because I don't know, and more about it. So let's start with Laura. Say hello.
Hi.
How are you, Laura?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Laura,
Thank you for having us.
Of course. Laura McGilley with the Sonoma Valley Vintners and Growers Alliance. Very
yes,
good. And
we are a nonprofit organization that supports the grape growers, wine growers, winemakers in Sonoma Valley, and promoting the awareness of our amazing grapes, wines, people, environment, climate.
So speaking of grapes, people, and wine, you brought a winemaker, an actual winemaker.
I did.
Who'd you
bring?
Our
winemaker, or a winemaker and board member.
Winemaker of the day.
Fabulous man and good friend, Bart Hansen.
Bart, welcome.
Thank you.
And which winery are you with?
So I have a small winery by the name of Dane Cellars.
Dane Cellars.
Yep.
And you named it after a large dog?
It's really interesting. We did not.
16-year-old dog.
Yeah, our 16-year-old son.
Named Dane.
His name's Dane.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, the funny thing about that is when we first met with an artist talking about the label, he walked in and he says, I have this concept for this big dog. And
That's
I was
awesome.
like, wow, you are not going to work out for me. No, I was a winemaker at Benziger Family Winery.
Also heard of them.
And when our son was born in 2007, I quit my perfectly good job to be a stay-at-home dad for now 16 years.
Great. Fantastic. Yeah. Stay-at-home dad / winemaker.
Yeah.
You started the trend.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're a stay-at-home doing nothing except I also run a wine label?
Well, but it's very, very small. And, I know most winemakers would like you to think it's all-consuming.
Right.
You don't have to do things just for the sake of doing them.
Well, hold on. Cut his microphone. What the hell? What's going on? No, they're out there 24 hours a day, 365. So if you're running a smaller wine label, you have a little bit more time.
Yeah, it's all manageable and stuff. Okay. And so it's very small still to this point. Mm-hmm. It's not meant to... It's not meant to change the world, but we're making really good wine. And we only make wine from here in Sonoma. That's where I've worked for my whole career.
Oh, great.
So why trounce all over the county or the state looking for other fruit when
find stuff
there's
nearby?
So much right here, right?
I like that. It's a good point.
Yeah.
So and on that, Laura, so then he's one of your winemakers, and are you also a grower, or are you
I'm not a grower. Okay. That's a different skill set that I didn't acquire. I was always a cellar rat by trade. Okay. So that's where I rely on really good growers, though.
So can you explain the difference between a grower and a winemaker? Because some people might not know what that means. Do you like a farmer versus?
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. I mean, and Bart can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'll say it simply. But to me, it's the growers are managing the vineyards. They are forming what the juice will be, and of course working with the winemaker and the team to get the right product, right?
But a grower doesn't, for example, squish the grapes or ferment anything normally.
I mean, in previous years or, earlier in life, that wasn't a good example, but earlier it was more delineated, right?
Right.
Like
So you're
there were
a farmer,
growers,
right?
You were a farmer, you grew grapes, you delivered them to the winery, and the winery took over.
You walk away, and then the vintner jumps into action.
Yeah, and wineries always grew grapes, so there was always that crossover.
Right.
But it was really a separation.
Right.
I think now you find most young winemakers coming up in the business, they've spent some time working in a vineyard, because without that background, there is something to be lost. I feel that it's easier to go from working in vineyards and then moving into winemaking than it would be to just being a winemaker and then going into grape growing.
Okay.
And a lot of our grape growers will provide grapes for various wineries, winemakers throughout Sonoma Valley too.
Got it.
So it's not always, there's estate grown, and then there's people that are buying and
there's
providing.
There's far more vineyards out there than there are
wine labels.
And it's also, it makes it, a community as well of people working together.
And there's also plenty of wine growers, farmers, who sell grapes to wineries that are not in Sonoma Valley.
That's true.
You could have a winery up in Mendocino or other parts of Sonoma County or Napa and buy our grapes. Right.
Of course.
But Bart, you were saying you buy all of your grapes from Sonoma Valley, it sounds like. And that's also what you can do as a thing. Let me ask you, did you get into this business? Are you in an ag background? Did you grow up here? How did you end up here?
I grew up here.
You grew up here?
No,
you're a local.
Background. I am a local.
Go Dragons.
Go Braves.
You went to the other high school.
I did go to high school in Napa, but that's okay.
All right,
if it were today, I would go to Sonoma Valley High.
So you grew up here.
Yeah.
Were you aware of wine growing and the wine business?
Yeah.
Did you grow up in the business?
No, I grew up around the business.
You did, which is kind of hard not to around here, right?
It's hard not to, but I also feel like I probably drank better wine then than maybe I did in my 20s. I could drink good wine now, but we drank good wine in when you were, I shouldn't say it in high school, but
well, you had access to.
I had access.
It wasn't Boone's Farm, and Mad Dog,
but not as much. I still didn't know what harvest was or what the whole process was.
It was just sort of out there happening. But like most teenagers, you're probably a little more navel gazing than there's a whole world out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Going on.
Exactly.
Okay.
So coming back here years later and now being in the business, it just makes so much sense, and I've learned so much.
And one of those cycles. Someone asked me today, how are things going in Sonoma? I'm like, well, it's that white knuckling is starting of harvest. I can feel it. There's a palpable sense in the air that we're about to hit harvest, and things are gonna be nuts for 8 to 10 weeks.
Yeah.
And the person's like, and the person lives in the Bay Area. What are you talking about? I'm like, well, here we're kind of defined. Our business cycles are also dependent on the agricultural cycles.
Yeah.
But it's funny how 30 miles away,
exactly,
they have no clue.
I mean, and we take it we take for granted a lot of it too.
Right.
You know what? We think it's normal, and it is to us, but people are fascinated by it too.
Right. Well, and people call me, should I come visit after harvest? They're like, well, what day does that end? I'm like, what are you talking about?
When does it start?
Exactly.
I mean, I grew up in Petaluma, and my mom's side of the family, they were all in the dairy industry. So I grew up around that. And the way I got into the wine business is my mom said, wouldn't it be fun to work at a winery?
She said that.
Yeah.
Because getting up at 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. to
again, my dad was a painting contractor, so her family was in it. She married someone that wasn't in the business.
Right.
And I was like, that might be kind of fun. And I went looking for a job, and I got a job at Kenwood Winery for harvest.
Wait, so you didn't do I'm going to go to UC Davis and study this stuff?
There was a reason why my mom said maybe you should get a job at a winery, because I wasn't a very good student.
Got it. Fair enough. So you started at Kenwood Vineyards as a cellar rat?
In 1986.
Can you explain what a cellar rat is?
Yeah, the year she was born. There you go.
Can you explain what a cellar rat is?
Well, I mean, that first year, actually, my job was I hauled grapes from the vineyard to the winery. That was my sole job. And when we weren't picking grapes, which was rare, I worked in the warehouse pulling pulling orders.
Like a pallet jack? Oh,
yeah,
so you got,
well, pallet jack, and then I graduated to forklift.
Well done.
Until I broke something, and then I went back to pallet jack.
Breakage.
Right. But essentially then became a cellar rat. And a cellar rat is someone that just works in the wine cellar, does all functionalities of what it takes to make wine. So everything from helping receive grapes to crushing them to pressing them, putting them into barrels, taking the wine out of barrels, washing tanks. It's all the glamour stuff.
People don't know that there are a lot of steps behind the scenes. They think you have grapes, and like I mentioned, you have barefoot Italian girls that squish them, and then they go into bottles.
Right.
But there are a lot of steps along the way.
Right.
And the cellar rats are kind of one of the key backbone of the industry. It's funny how we all call each other cellar rats, though.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know where that came from. The first time I ever kind of heard it is Lance Cutrer. Or Lance Cutler, from here. He was the original winemaker at Gunlock Bundschuh.
Okay.
They used to throw the cellar rats ball way back in those days. And that was the first time I'd ever heard.
Yeah, it's a common term up here. And if you say that to people from Sonoma County, they understand what you're talking about. You're pulling hoses, you're moving pumps, you're doing cleanouts. If you tell anybody from far away, like a cellar rat, they're thinking of a rodent, but they're not. Yeah. No. But or are they?
I think that's where the name comes
so then you graduated and you started making your own wine. How'd you go from being a cellar rat to like, I'm going to make my own label?
Maybe a little overconfident.
Oh, well done. Didn't know what you didn't know.
No, my time at Kenwood was really kind of spent learning, the basics of winemaking and learning the processes and about cleanliness and all those things. Then I got a chance to go work for the Benziger family, which was a little different because now all of a sudden I was more managing people as opposed to being the person doing the work. I got to have input on how the wines tasted, and then I was given responsibility with these are your grapes this year. Don't mess it up.
Like a block of a vineyard, you're saying?
Wow, okay. Yeah. And so that was some ownership, which came with some confidence. And, Mike and Joe were always there, very close to let me know their opinions.
Are you saying the Benziger boys were not shy with their opinions?
Well, I mean, they're just
not shy about
anything.
They're
not shy about anything, right?
Right.
And so that, kind of came from it. And then, like many other, people in the wine business, I made homemade wine for years.
Right.
Speaking of which, should we try some?
Yeah, I think we should. Well, why don't we let's transition to that? Because you went from garage yeast to a guy who makes in the garage.
Yeah.
To an actual winemaker, which they're also actual winemakers, I should say, the garage yeast.
And they are, yes. And
Whoa! Is that what you're looking for? That was great. You're hired.
What? I think that what led to it was it used to be very difficult to make a small amount of wine. Like there weren't facilities where you could make wine. The licensing wasn't as simple as I'm going to make a little my own wine at somebody else's winery. And when that changed, it all kind of opened up. And then, of course, when direct to consumer started, which was before I started, then there was a way to actually sell that wine.
Got it. Okay.
So those were the things that kind of opened it up.
Okay.
And then it's just a matter of start shelling out money. Right?
Step 1, get grapes. Step 5, get a lot of money.
Right.
Start spending. Well, you brought here, it looks like a rosé, which is a pinkish wine. For those who,
So this is a 2000. Do you have a?
I have my where'd my cup go?
It?
Yeah, right there. It's the official wine tumbler for the picnic area of the plaza. Ooh. Is that fancy?
So this is a 2022 rosé made of the Grenache variety.
Okay.
From Dane Cellars.
From Dane Cellars. Wait, if someone is it danesellars.com?
It is danesellars.com.
That's the way to explain to me what Grenache is, so I don't know what that is. Cheers to all you guys.
Cheers.
Wait, how you do it? There you go. Wait. Very good. And I'll do a little tasting here.
So Grenache is known as one of the varieties grown in the south of France, primarily Châteauneuf du Pape.
Okay.
A noble grape variety for sure. Not one extensively planted here in California,
right?
Especially here in Sonoma until the past few years.
Okay.
A wonderful grape, really nice fresh fruit. a pale color, but it's the traditions of Chateauneuf du Pape. It's also blended with Mourvedre and Syrah and many other varieties. Which where the dark color comes from in the red wine.
I've heard of GSM is what it's called here in the States.
Right.
Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre.
Right.
Does it have another name in France or something like that? Or just wine?
If there's again in France, remember where the grapes are grown kind of determines what's in it. So if it's in Chateauneuf du Pape, it's primarily Grenache, and then up to 17 or 18 other varieties can be in it.
Okay. But they have some limits that maybe Californians aren't limited by as far as what blends could go in there.
If you're going to call it a proprietary blend here, then all you have to do is be able to list what the percentages of the varieties are.
Got it.
So we have a red blend that we call Valeria. Okay. It happens to be Grenache and Mourvedre.
Okay.
And the reason why it's a variety is because it's not 75% Grenache.
Got it.
It's only 66% Grenache.
So getting into this, Laura, this is stuff you guys kind of deal with. The laws state if there's certain percentages,
right? Yeah, we do. And I was going to say what we do deal with, too, is marketing and events. And Grenache Day is coming up, right?
Grenache Day?
Grenache Day.
Grenache Day?
Yeah.
What day is Grenache Day?
I think this is September. It's a weekend.
It's actually so International Grenache Day actually happens to fall on my birthday this year. So if anyone wants to send a card,
so when is that?
September 15th.
15th. Okay.
International Grenache Day,
yes,
September 15th.
And so there's a couple of events that have been organized. Right. The Girl in the Fig is having a dinner to celebrate it.
And they're big into these kind of varietals.
Yes, they are. Well, I mean, they're the reason why the varieties have taken off the way they have.
Right.
But they're doing something down at Sweet D.
Okay.
A dinner and a whole bunch of wines.
Okay.
From all over the country.
Are they going to include yours?
We will have some of our wines.
Are we going to have birthday cake?
I don't know about that. I don't know if
John Twilsey, listen up. Birthday cake, September 15th, Grenache Day.
See if John's listening. And then on Sunday, our friends at Winery 16600 are having their what they call Vinyl Sunday, and they're having a show out at a barn out on Denmark with Catherine Russell, a jazz musician coming to play.
Yep.
Okay.
So yes, it's a full weekend of Grenache celebration.
Grenache celebrations.
Winery 16600 has all the information too on their website.
So let me transition away from winery for 1 second.
Yep.
Laura, you represent a bunch of wineries and growers,
yes.
and it sounds like you come up with events or things to kind of explain what the Sonoma Valley Vintners and Growers. Do they have any other big events coming up that consumers can be a part of and kind of learn more about Sonoma Valley?
I'm so glad you asked. And of course, we have one sort of marquee event, and for the rest of the year, it's mainly our wineries and members who have the events, and we promote those. Right. But for us, as Sonoma Valley Vintners and Growers, also known as SVVGA, Sonoma Valley Wine, and our foundation, we have taken over in 2021 the Valley of the Moon Vintage Festival.
Okay.
Very historic, time-honored tradition during harvest season.
I think it's California's longest-running harvest festival, or maybe the country's. I can't remember.
126 years.
That's a lot of harvest.
Year,
okay.
1897, I believe it started. And I want to say it started at Gunlock Bundshoe.
Oh, really?
Yes. So much history there.
Jeff does not look that old.
Jeff doesn't. He's not.
Jim does, though.
Jim does.
They're listening. So I was founded in 1897 at Gunbun as a vintage festival.
Celebrating harvest season. And then throughout the years, it's just taken on sort of different aspects and community events, and we took it over in 2021. Last year, 2022 was our first go at it. It was great, successful, and we had so much fun.
Let's do it again, you're like.
We're going to do it again this year.
A second glass.
Yes.
What dates is it this year?
September 29th, Friday, September 29th, and Saturday, September 30th.
Got it. Okay.
So we'll begin Friday with the Legends Dinner. Okay. That is at B.R. Cohen. Okay. It's a wonderful, magical evening. Chef Ari Weisswasser is catering.
Oh, good.
Or having the dinner.
From Glen Ellen Star.
From Glen Ellen Star. It will be tables hosted by all of our legendary grape growers and winemakers. Anyone can come and sit with them at the table. They're going to be having their own, library wines from their own collections.
What is a library wine? Is that a wine I drink in the library? Because people say library wines, and what does that term mean exactly?
Would you explain it as a?
I would say, a library wine is anything that's not currently for sale.
Okay.
So,
it's hard to get.
Wine.
Back catalog.
Back catalog. I mean, wine is.
That you wouldn't drink anywhere else. Really.
Yeah, and it's something meant to be aged, right? Like, we now we try to make wines that are approachable when you release them, right? They should taste good, but they should also taste better, down the road. Yeah. Okay. And so wineries will always hold back wines to see how they evolve and see how they age out. Okay. And so that's what we're doing is we're bringing some of the old wines to share with our customers and our friends.
Okay.
Last year I was given an empty bottle, but I had a little bit of it from Joel Peterson in 1986.
Oh, really? Okay.
Zen.
As famous as Ravenswood Zen.
That was my first harvest.
No, I have the bottle.
I know.
Really?
And
that
it was
my first
my
harvest.
birthday weekend.
86.
86.
I was trying to go back to like how young you are.
We moved it up this year.
So she's younger than a library wine. I love it.
No, that's so funny.
And then Laura, so I see that. So that's on Friday.
Friday,
the Legends dinner.
Legends dinner.
And then are there other things happening on the weekend?
So yes, Saturday morning we are bringing back the race and fun run.
Okay.
I'm so excited about it. We've been working hard on it. That will be starting 8 a.m. on the plaza.
Is this a car race? Or what are you talking about?
It's a fun run race with your legs.
It's a foot race.
It's a foot race.
Okay. Okay.
All ages and levels are welcome.
Okay. Are you running it, Laura?
I will be working probably.
Look at where she ducks that. It's like, I have to work.
I'm not much of a runner. I would probably walk it though, but we want everyone to come out and have some fun with it. And then you finish that and the daytime festival kicks off. Okay. So that's in the plaza. We have the blessing of the grapes, grape stomp, of course, which is always fun and really exciting.
Okay, the grape stomp's kind of funny because you see people get very competitive.
Very competitive.
They wear like team shirts sometimes. And these literally are the barefoot people squishing grapes. They are. Which is how you harvest stuff nowadays. Yes. Right. How you crush things.
Not with my feet.
No.
And you have a swabber. Sometimes somebody's in there kind of cleaning out the little screen because the grape gets in there. And their goal is to collect as much as they can or like to get to a certain amount by a certain time. Yeah. I've done it. It's hard.
It is hard.
It's harder than it looks.
Definitely, there's technique to it, without a doubt.
It's funny because I was trying it, and then somebody who worked for a bank was like just totally crushing me, like, no pun intended. And it's like they had this whole like squeak, like tap dance sort of thing they were doing. And they were very good. Right. So, bankers. Yeah. They have plenty of time to learn how to squish grapes.
Right, exactly.
Some of us have to work on podcasts.
Right.
So the grape stomp.
Grape stomp, Artisans Festival.
Oh, cool.
Wine, beer by the glass, barbecue, kids zone.
Okay.
What am I forgetting? Live music, of course. Okay. Community booths.
So it's like a big community
festival.
Parade and festival.
All day.
Okay.
All day. Possibly water fights from the fire department.
Okay.
Pending.
The salami throw, the
salami toss.
Toss.
We're doing a salami toss.
Salami toss. Kids zone. Yes. We're doing tractor.
Hold on.
Listen, these are all things. When I first went to the Vintners Festival,
in a small town, like, you better have the salami toss.
Well,
I mean, this is right. This is a community event, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we all have stories from it and memories. And quite frankly, it was rough after COVID and everything. So we want to bring it back. We want people to come and have fun.
You're right.
I mean, I truly remember very clearly all of these things when I was little.
Right. And what you were saying, you weren't aware of the wine business, but you just weren't aware this was a wine.
What I was
there's a vintage festival, right? Yes. The vintage, right?
And again, it's a community-wide event, and all of this is not for a profit. It is all that supports our foundation in order to give back to the community and the organizations here. This year, we're supporting the FFA, the Future Farmers of America Sonoma Valley chapter. Okay. And the Mentoring Alliance. So all of this, and just other throughout the year, if there are funds available to go throughout just local organizations and charities.
Did you do FFA as a kid?
I did not, but my niece is doing it right now.
Really?
She just finished. And unfortunately, her pig Tiger hurt his ankle and couldn't go to the fair, so we bought her pig. So Tiger will be in our freezer soon.
Oh, I was going to say, like, Tiger got to stay because he hurt himself.
Tiger got it's a she.
Oh, she.
She did get to stay, yeah.
And so we just wrapped up the county fair here in Sonoma County where people bring their hogs and their chickens and their sheep for sale.
Yes.
Do they sell the guinea pigs to the 4-H kids? What do they do?
I don't think so.
Well, it wouldn't be a very big bite.
I don't think so. But I do know there was a lot of kids this year, which is
really, that's
good.
good.
is great.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. And then back to the festival.
But enough about the pig.
Enough about my
The
pig.
marketing department is working.
Yeah, so tell me, is there anything else going on that day?
Yes, and then that evening will sort of conclude at the Grand Tasting, which has always been a part of the Vintage Festival weekend as well. It's on Saturday, September 30th in the evening at the Sonoma Barracks.
Okay.
And that is where you get your chance to, meet and try meet our winemakers and try all of their wines. It's fun, it's celebratory, live music, tons of food vendors, culinary. We have places like Eldorado Kitchen, Girl in the Fig,
Fairmont
Sonoma Mission Inn, all these wonderful places. Sweet Scoops, of course.
Great ice cream place.
Of course, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
this sounds like a really good 2 days, action packed to kick the whole thing off.
Yes.
And then afterwards, everyone that shows up has to go work harvest, right? That's the rule.
Well, last year was funny because harvest was early.
Oh, really?
And that weekend was October 7th, 8th, and it was sort of the end of harvest. It was. This year, it's going to be basically just starting.
Well, let's talk about that. I know I look on my calendar and it says harvest starts at 9 a.m. on this date, but how does it really work?
I don't think it works that way.
How do I know when to pick grapes? How does that work? What's going on?
You'll ask 10 winemakers, they'll all tell you 10 different answers. Mm-hmm. I mean, the grapes have to go through veraison first.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? Is that like a place they go to?
That's when the grapes the color starts to change in the reds and the whites. So because they start to hopefully turn from green to more golden in color.
So, but when the grapes are born, when they first come out as clusters,
yes,
they are not red or white.
Correct.
What are they?
They're just kind of a funny green color.
Okay. And then
they start to large. They start to get larger.
Right.
And then at some point they'll start to soften.
Okay.
Right, because they're hard as BBs to start.
Fling them at your brother's head.
And they,
like a fake grape.
And then as they start to soften, that's when they start changing and start accumulating sugar.
Okay,
so that's the start of veraison. One way to see it is by looking at the color of the reds. And it's very, very late this year.
It is.
And rain and colder this year.
Yep, and we had a true winter this year where, the vines went completely dormant, which they haven't done in many years.
Last year was super warm.
Right.
And so we don't know what's going on. I talked to a grower today, and he seems to think that the reds will be done with veraison before some whites because everything's just kind of backwards.
Oh, so even whites go through veraison.
Correct. Again, it's more of a sugar accumulation. Okay. So right now, if you put a grape in your mouth, it's so tart, it's unbearable.
Right.
So they'll start accumulating sugar and they'll start softening up.
Got it. I remember Joel once told me, Joel Peterson, you mentioned Ravens, once told a story. He'd go out in the vines with his son, who's now a winemaker, Morgan, on his back. And the way he wouldn't have what's called a refractometer, which is how you put the juice in there and you can kind of see the sugar levels or the bricks. He would feed it to his kid. Right. And if the kid kept eating the grape, it was almost time to harvest. There was enough sugar in it, right? My understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, the sugars are a key part to making wine because sugars convert into alcohol.
Correct.
Is that right? Okay.
Yep.
And then, so when they're at the right point, you don't want too much sugar, or otherwise you can make jelly or something like that.
Correct. You don't want too much sugar because the alcohol would be too high. And you endanger the yeast, which do all the work because at too high alcohol, the yeast will die. Okay. And you also, it's a matter of how it tastes and balance, right?
It hurts the next day too.
Too much sugar leads to higher alcohols, and that's what Laura's speaking about. I wouldn't know anything about that myself. But then the other thing you're looking for is flavor development.
Got it.
And that's the challenge every year is how quickly does the sugar grow. You want it to get there at an amount where there's flavors are able to develop.
You don't want to go too fast.
Correct.
Or you might not have a complex thing.
Right.
I've also heard that one of the nice
things can be out of balance.
One of the nice things about this area is that when the fog comes in or it cools off at night, that helps keep the sugar levels low and balance it all. Yeah. So I learned things from listening to podcasts, which reminds me, don't you have a podcast, Bart?
I am part of a podcast.
What's the name of that podcast?
It's called The Winemakers.
Oh, what's it about? Sports?
Yeah. We're pretty transparent.
Right.
No, it's myself, Sam Katuri, John Myers, and Brian Casey. So Sam kind of represents the growing. Mm-hmm. I speak to the winemaking. Mm-hmm. Brian is a somm. So he's kind of on the service end.
And I'm assuming it's not like a biblical poem. What's a psalm mean?
A sommelier.
Got it. Thank you.
So, helping people in restaurants, helping people select wines. Making suggestions.
Aren't those people jerks and they're snooty? Isn't that true?
There certainly are those, without a doubt. I've experienced them. Uh-huh. Brian's pretty easy to talk to.
Yeah. So they're kind of like your partner in choosing a good wine.
Correct.
If they're doing it right.
Correct. Sure. And then John's our consumer.
Oh, good.
And John,
Director
John
of
grew up.
consumption.
Yeah, director of consumption. John grew up, spent his career in advertising and like going out to lunches with.
Oh, the old expense account.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Mad Men there.
So his perspective is really interesting,
Really?
And it's funny because sometimes there's questions and he'll ask a question and I look at him and I go, "Really, John?" And I go, "No, of course, that makes perfect sense." And, and what the great thing about it is a lot of our listeners are not in the business and they want to learn that. So it allows them to learn. So
it's fun.
It's been really fun. We're approaching 300 episodes.
Wow.
Amazing.
It's called The Winemakers.
The Winemakers.
Available wherever fine podcasts are found.
Exactly.
Okay. And it's taped here in Sonoma Valley.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And what we do is we typically, for the most part, have young winemakers on, let them come on and talk about their brands. Okay. We talk all sorts of people.
And young marketing people who work in the wine business.
Well, trying to break into it.
Well, you're not a winemaker?
I am not.
Okay.
I forgot something very important about the Vintage Festival weekend that I need to talk about.
Call back to that. Go.
The poster contest.
What?
Is back.
Poser contest? I'm the biggest poser you know. Oh, poster.
Every year there's a poster that represents, and it's sort of the mascot of the
like
weekend.
An artistically done poster.
The poster.
I've seen these.
Yes. So it just concluded, and we have a winner.
Do we know who? Can you announce it?
No. But it will be announced on Monday. And then,
come on! You can't announce it. Okay, I like that.
So you can't. This isn't going to go out till Monday.
It'll go out on Monday. But should you... No, wait. So I would encourage everyone to go to the SonomaValleyWine.com to find out the winner.
Yeah, to our social media at Sonoma Valley Wine.
Okay.
And Sonoma City, we did it in partnership with them, which is great. And we had a good amount of submissions. Everything was wonderful. Mm-hmm. It was hard to pick, but we'll announce, and then we'll be printing them, and then it will be featured throughout the weekend.
That's cool.
Anyone can come out to the daytime
I like how
festival
you just hedged it. You're like, everyone did their best effort.
They did.
Just
it was
amazed
hard
by
to choose.
the depth
It was
of
really
talent.
hard to choose. And we made the theme, so the weekend.
Come on, one of them was terrible.
No.
Which one was
I'm
bad?
not one to judge an artiste.
Be honest.
It's the harvest, under the harvest moon.
Okay, that's good.
Was the theme because on September 29th at Legends Dinner, it will be the harvest moon. In the sky that evening.
You can predict the future. You know when the full moon is.
Chosen a better
you guys
night.
are like evil
witches,
like witch necromancer types. Yeah, good job.
Witchy, yes.
Wow, that's amazing.
We're very excited.
Okay, I do like those posters, and it's always kind of neat to see the different types of arts there.
We're really excited.
Is there going to be like a big dog on it, like for Dane Cellars, or is that
exactly
no dog? No dog.
But speaking of which, let's refill because we got to get to the next section of the podcast, which is going to be you got to help me answer some questions. So, are you guys ready for that?
Yeah, bro.
I'm a bad test taker.
So as you know, we have 2 visitor centers, one at the Plaza, one in south of Vianza Winery. We have email, social media, TikTok, text us. People ask us questions, and we have to answer them. But today, you're going to be working for the visitor center.
Perfect.
And you're going to help answer it. We have decided to call this section of the podcast, We Get Questions.
Perfect.
So original.
Yeah, no. The Winemakers podcast. And now you haven't seen these yet.
Okay.
You're not, right?
No,
we have
so
not seen
this is
them.
like it. But I will hand them out now, so you can look at them if you want. But that way, but you haven't seen them until you walk in the door.
Them.
Yeah, I'll just read them. Okay, good. Ready?
I have bad eyesight.
These are ones that came in. So ready? We are visiting from Orlando.
Okay.
I don't like red wines.
Okay.
Do any of the wineries have sweeter white wines? And do wineries usually have both red and white wines, or just one or the other? So, sweeter white wines, And then also, do wineries just have reds, or do wineries have whites, or both? And how does that work?
I can answer the second part of it if you want to take the first one.
Sure.
I'll start with the second part of it.
Let's go for it.
So the important thing to remember is, of course, what you like is, looking into all of the wineries, but not just stopping at what the first thing you see is. If you like white wine and all you see are cabs or pinots, you should definitely call them and do some more digging. You can talk to us, talk to you, but most wineries do have a variety of varietals. So I would suggest not to ever just judge a book by its cover, because most of them do.
So most wineries will have red and white wines.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's also, please open your palate and try something new too, because you never. I didn't know I liked Chardonnay until a few years ago. More than that, but people judge that very harshly, and unless you've maybe had a really good one, you don't know what you're missing.
Right.
So I think it's opening your palate and being open to a new try. But yeah, most of them have different.
Most of them have red and white wines
available. Yes.
And be willing to go beyond your comfort zone, and especially in Sonoma, we're pretty relaxed.
We're pretty relaxed.
We're pretty nice people.
We are pretty nice people.
So,
we are pretty welcoming, and we're glad you're coming from Orlando.
Right. And the other thing to remember is that wineries. Wine is an experiential, right?
Yeah.
Like you learn something every time you have a wine. So just because you don't like red wine, as Laura said, try something, and a good person working at the winery will, if you tell them I don't really like red wine or I haven't had it, they'll guide you through it. They're not going to give you something that's, really massively large and hard to drink.
Or like what you have here. You have a rosé,
right,
which is a touch of red
in
the wine.
Yep.
Grenache.
A great entry-level type of
right.
wine.
And Grenache is usually a red wine.
Correct.
Right? So it's a good way to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sweeter white wines. I've heard Sauternes.
Sure.
Sojourn.
There's not that much sweet wine around anymore.
Right.
But wine is also, just because it doesn't say it's sweet, or by the lab test may say it's dry, which means no sugar. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have an essence of sweetness. Alcohol is viscous and it gives a roundness to the flavor. So a lot of times there are wines that are dry, but they have a sweetness to it.
Taste.
Sometimes the fruit profile is sweet. Yeah. So again, open your mind and try the wines.
Okay.
The great thing about a tasting is that it's just a little taste, and if you don't care for it, you can just pour it out
and
ask them to try something else.
Judgment. Yeah. Are there also like something called late harvest wines? Usually they're reds, but are there any white red harvests?
There are some white late harvests, but yeah, you're right. Most of them are reds, ports. But if you think about when America was established, when California was established, where we were coming on the 200th anniversary, most of the wines that were being made and drunk at that time were sweet wines.
Oh, interesting.
And it was because they were higher alcohol, and that would help preserve them and help them, not go bad.
Right.
When the Declaration of Independence was signed, they were drinking Sauternes.
Oh, interesting. Okay, very good. Well, so same question then is, where can I get white Merlot wine? And
so a white Merlot would be a rosé.
Okay.
And I would want to talk to the marketing department that decided to call it white Merlot. There was one winery had white Cabernet Blanc or white Cabernet before, and listen, I'm a winemaker. I'm not a marketer, so maybe I should keep my mouth shut.
That's not good marketing.
It was funny because white Merlot, and I looked it up. And it's usually in AVAs with more of a mass bulk. So places that aren't doing a lot of premium wines will do a white Merlot. And I think, because I sort of stared at her for a second, and then she mentioned a brand. I said, okay, that's a big mass market, bottom shelf brand that they add sugars to things and magical stuff.
When I think of it, it's like upstate New York. I think there's some rosé of Merlot is what I would call it there, because they can grow Merlot there, and they want to have an entry level wine, so they make some rosé.
So usually when you hear like a white and then a varietal, white Zinfandel, white Merlot, you're actually looking at a wine that's been slightly changed or marketed in such a way to make it approachable for people who are not who don't think they're wine drinkers.
Yeah.
I would suggest a rosé of Pinot.
Great.
Or a rosé of Grenache.
Fantastic. You're absolutely right. That's good. And so white Zinfandel is a way for people to move some Zinfandel back in the 80s. Maybe white Merlot is a way for people to move stuff. Go get an actual Merlot. Go to Gun Bun, or if you make a Merlot, and get a really good Merlot. Yeah. Because you might really like it, and Merlots are quite good.
Yeah.
Don't believe the hype from the movie.
Don't believe, and Rex Pickett's here tomorrow.
Right.
That's funny.
Or the show. There's been a couple since that movie.
Okay, here's a good question. We have people text us questions. You got this one. What's the best place for pizza?
Oh.
In Sonoma?
In Sonoma. I feel like I'm
and
could be biased.
Subjective.
Okay.
And I asked the person, where are you? And they said they were on the plaza. So
I honestly...
Go, whatever you want.
I'm afraid that if I don't say the right one, when I walk into the other place, I'll get in trouble.
I'm going to say it. I love Jacobs. I love Jacobs. They have a great gluten-free option.
Okay.
Mary's Pizza I grew up with. I love their Mary's salad. I love their breadsticks.
No, come on.
I don't love
pepperoni. The pepperoni. They have the cup pepperoni. It catches the grease.
I love their lunch slices. Right. I don't love their pies.
From the Slice Shack.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to go with the Swiss.
Oh, yeah.
Well done.
Those pizzas are so good.
From the Swiss Hotel?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
those are good.
I'm going to give you another option.
Kristen, are you listening to that?
The red.
I give the Swiss enough business.
Another one I'm going to give you is the red grape. Yes. Fantastic. Yeah. Right next to La Prenda tasting room.
Yep. Yes.
So you can try some of their wines there. Good pizzas, a good place to chill. And those are good places in Sonoma.
Yes,
right? And Mary's, the original Mary's, is technically in the Springs.
Jacobs is right off the square,
and
too.
Jacobs is right off the square.
Right near Train
You
Town.
can ride your bike because Hunt Bailey's Sonoma Adventures bike rental company is right next to it.
Sure.
And you can work off some of that pizza.
But
I have an electric bike.
Can I give a shout out to my hometown of Petaluma?
I've heard of it.
Pinky's Pizza.
Pinky's Pizza?
I haven't heard
Been
of
there
it.
forever.
Is it downtown?
Wait, is that the one downtown?
Yeah.
Oh, like the two-story? Is it two-story?
No, just one story.
No, because that's the Chicago pizza.
That's
also very good.
That is
good.
But
like Pinky's
is quite good.
Let's be honest. I'll eat any pizza, though.
I don't, this is a dumb question. The best place for pizza is whatever's right in front of you.
Right, exactly.
Eat it. And actually, that brings up a good Sonoma Valley thing. There aren't a lot of bad restaurants here because they don't survive. Right. And we have a good, chefs and winemakers talking to each other. Okay. You ready for this one?
Yeah.
You just mentioned something. So I'm looking for a good place to ride bikes. Any ideas?
Anywhere and everywhere. We have a bike path, of course, a lovely bike path that takes you basically throughout the whole span of the city, and you can make stops along the way.
Okay.
You can go up what would be where Gun Bun is and all of that.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a couple classic loops in Sonoma.
Yeah.
And they can all be done from the plaza.
Okay.
One is going out Level Valley to Thornsbury, going in the back gate of Gunlock Bunchu. And then
this is the most Sonoma thing ever. Like, you feel like you're trespassing, but everyone walks through this gate that goes through a neighborhood that cuts through like this little weird path.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, this is allowed. This is part of it. So, okay.
And if you want something a little more ambitious, of course, you can keep going up Level Valley and do Level Valley Loop, which, it's a good climb up and great views.
Beautiful.
And that's good for cyclists who might have a little more gears or an e-bike.
An e-bike.
Or an e-bike.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love it.
And then another ride that's maybe from the plaza a little bit longer, but not necessarily as challenging, is riding up to Glen Ellen, stay off Highway 12, but go up Arnold Drive, and then doing that Dunbar Loop. Dunbar to Heno, and then come back the same way, you know, and spectacular views and not terribly busy roads.
Right.
And honestly, with anyone visiting Sonoma, going on that side, maybe not always by bike, but I don't ever want that side to be forgotten because those views never get old.
Right.
And that drive on, up towards Kenwood and past there it's stunning.
Sometimes I'll come into work that way because I live up by Santa Rosa. I'll come in. I come in back way. I love it.
And we have
so
great
beautiful
wineries
coming
over
down.
there, and it's not do not miss that.
But the answer is, you said e-bike.
I didn't
You
say
just got
e-bike.
one. No,
I just have one
e-bikes
now,
are amazing,
and I love them.
But Bart, you just did the ending hunger chef cycle, and you have like a road bike.
I have a handful of bikes.
You do.
It shows all of our differences.
Right.
I love that you ride bikes and do all sorts of stuff like that. Tell me about this chef cycle real quick. What was that?
Chef Cycle is a great event, and I found out about it because they rolled through Sonoma Valley one time. Chefs from all, so it's the organization is No Kid Hungry. Chef Cycle is an event that's put on to support No Kid Hungry.
Okay.
Last year, there were 100 chefs that came from all over the United States and a few from Canada.
They come here to Sonoma. Sonoma Valley, Sonoma County. Okay.
And it's based out of Santa Rosa at the Flamingo.
Okay.
And we rode 300 miles in 3 days.
You're bonkers.
So
are your knees still recovering? Your back still
no,
recovering?
I'm actually pretty good.
You're good. You ride bikes a
while
lot.
ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was in May this year.
Yeah.
And so this
Just
year
recovering.
we raised just about.
It only took me 2.5 months.
This year we raised close to $1 million.
What?
What?
Just that one ride?
Yeah.
It's amazing. Amazing.
And so
Okay.
and all that money goes to feeding kids.
Right, it's great.
So
And there are actual chefs
world famous chefs
on their bicycles
come for this. Yeah. The first year I did it, there were 300 riders from all over the United States, and we raised $2.5 million.
Wow.
And all the money goes strictly to buying food for
No Kids Hungry.
for feeding kids.
That's great. Okay.
Throughout the country.
throughout the country.
Wow.
It's
Okay.
an amazing organization.
And for those watching this on YouTube, you're wearing the shirt right there. On the podcast, he's wearing a shirt. And it says, Ending Hunger, Chef Cycle 2023. Okay, that's good. Final question. Are you guys ready? You're at the visitor center. You're working at the front cart. You're my volunteers. Someone comes up and they ask, are there any wineries or restaurants open on Thanksgiving Day or the Friday after? My soon-to-be husband and I can't find much time off work, so we'll need to go that weekend.
Great weekend to come.
Yeah?
One of my favorite weekends.
Okay.
Most
Why?
places are open.
Right.
Definitely Friday after. That's a
Right.
huge day. If you want a specific reservation, make it soon. But
Right.
most take walk-ins.
Right.
I would say on Thanksgiving Day, places like Wit and Wisdom. I think Swiss is even possibly open.
Yeah, I think the Girl in the Fig does
yeah.
it. The
Fairmont's open.
Fairmont's open.
Yeah.
Yep.
Layla, but most places will be open, but make your reservation. Friday, definitely. It's a good bustling time to be here. The
Very
weather's
popular.
usually nice, and it's just
Fall
a fun,
colors are still
fall
very much
colors
here.
are very much here.
Yeah, because you guys have gone out and painted all the vineyards, right? With the
Yeah,
red.
exactly.
Good job. Good
yeah.
job.
I'm just imagining like a
I was going to make a joke, but it was maybe too close with the fires. Not
Yeah, no, yeah.
I feel like we're
So it's a beautiful time to come visit.
Yes.
And we do have a list on our website of restaurants and wineries open on Thanksgiving and the day after.
take your time off work with your new husband.
You
and come out.
should.
Yeah.
Come on, new
Yeah.
husband.
I mean,
That's
I
important.
always say that fall is the best time, and
Yeah. It is.
and I think people
It's my
should come
birthday.
during harvest.
You do.
Yeah, because
What, are you like press gang them into working?
yeah, absolutely. No, you
It's
know
just
what?
beautiful. The weather's perfect.
Right.
People are out.
At Benziger, we had thousands of people come through
Yeah.
Right.
the tours
Yeah.
during harvest, and we'd get them in there. We'd get their hands dirty, and you know what? You blow people's minds.
Yeah. Because you have the winemakers there. You
Right.
have
You-
everyone
you-
there.
The aromatics.
Yeah,
the,
you smell
the
it.
colors,
Smell the must in the
you know.
air. Chris Loxton over at Loxton Winery does a crush pad tour whenever he's doing it. A lot of wineries do that. Sometimes they'll just take you around and you can see the
Yeah.
crush pad and how it works.
And
the
that's
best
how
time.
Sonoma
Right.
is too. You have access to all of that.
right there.
We're so much more like not casual, but it's more intimate.
Right.
And I think it can create more of a special.
There might be a
environment.
winemaker on the bike right next to you.
There might be.
You never know.
Yep.
With some,
and
with
I'll
some-
just speed by him on my e-bike.
and he's like, I've got rosé.
with her bell going.
I need a bell.
You don't have a bell?
I need a bell.
Go over to Wine
I
Country
have a
Cyclery.
basket.
No, Wine Country Cyclery. I bought my bell there for my
Okay.
bike. I have a bike at the office that I only ride my bike around town. So I
Yeah.
park my car when I come to work, and then I ride the bike because
Yeah.
everything in this town is only like a mile and a half from each
Yeah.
other. So
Great.
when I go get lunch or have a meeting, it's a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So I tell people to bring a bike.
Yeah.
Guys, you passed the test. You've
you very
answered
much.
the questions. You're amazing.
Did I?
You passed the test. Let's work this in order here. First of all, if people want more information about not the dog Dane Cellars, but
Right.
Dane Cellars named after your amazing child, where do I find information about that?
DaneCellars.com.
Okay. And if they also want to learn more, like your voice is like melodious and amazing. You sound smart. The name of your podcast again is?
The Winemakers.
Okay.
So we're the Winemakers winemakerspodcast.com.
Okay, very good. And then, Laura, if people want more information both about the Vintage Festival or about Sonoma Valley winemakers, where do they go?
So coming up is the Valley of the Moon Vintage Festival. That is valleyofthemoonvintagefestival.org. And then for Sonoma Valley Vintners and Growers Alliance, Sonoma Valley Wine, all of our social media, Sonoma Valley Wine, and then SonomaValleyWine.com. That has all the information about Vintage Festival on all of our social channels. But look at valleyofthemoonvintagefestival.org. Look at the events. Please come out, have some fun with the community, and support the wonderful people that live here too.
Yeah,
I love that.
Come have some fun.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
We're really looking forward to it.
Great. Well, thank you guys. And if you want more information beyond these two fabulous people, go to SonomaValley.com for special offers, events, whatever is happening. Mom and Dad, thanks for listening. Kid, go to class. I know I dropped you off for college, so I want to know what's going on. And everybody else, we'll see you next week on the Sonoma Spiel. Thank you very much, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers.